Hey folks, so this is the second video in this section dealing with rational inequalities. So in the notes, if you'll go down please to the section that starts out talking about checking your answers, just make sure that when you get to the bottom of a problem, your answers don't cause a zero in the original denominator. We all know that you cannot have zero down on the bottom, but make sure you go back and check your work for that. All right, so this section says that we should find all solutions by hand. We're not using our calculators for this. And so my tips here tell me to get the common denominator first. So as you look at example number 3, you'll notice that I have 3 different denominators. In order to figure out what the common denominator is, you need to do some factoring. So let's first of all start out by factoring that first denominator. And then secondly, to get the common denominator, we're going to use all of the first denominator. So that's going to be that 2x minus 1 times 2x plus 1. And then when I move to the next denominator, I'm going to see, do I have any repeats? I'm not going to use the repeats of my denominators. So this next thing that we'll look at here is to get that common denominator, starting with the whole thing, 2x minus 1, 2x plus 1. The thing is when I get to this next denominator, that's a repeat. I don't need it. And to get to the third one, that's a repeat. I don't need that one either. So then my common denominator is simply 2x minus 1, 2x plus 1. Then the third thing that we're going to do, this is in my tip list here, number 2, multiply every single term by the common denominator. So we want to multiply every single term. We'll put brackets around everything by that common denominator. So I'm going to take and multiply by the first term, by the second term, and by the third term. All right, so when I start out by doing that, and I'll write out the entire thing for this first question, we're going to have 2x minus 1 times 2x plus 1 times the first term. And then we'll take that same denominator times the second term, and the same common denominator times the third term. And what we find out in here is that there are some things that we can cancel along the way. So when I multiply, let me change the color here so that you can see the difference. In my first term, the 2x minus 1s will cancel because I have 1 on top and 1 on bottom. And the 2x plus 1s will cancel because I have 1 on top and 1 on bottom. In the second term, a pair of 2x plus 1s will cancel. And in the third term, 2x minus 1s, 1 on top and 1 on bottom, will cancel each other out. So then what I really want to pay attention to is what's left over after I've canceled that out. My first term leaves me with an 8x. My second term, notice that I've gone ahead and I've multiplied here. My second term left me with a 2x minus 1 and a 3. So I went ahead and distributed the 3. And my third term, same thing, a 2x plus 1 and a 3. And I went ahead and distributed. So you can see that already in my work. Now I'm just ready to combine my like terms. So I'm going to have an 8x is equal to a 12x. Let's get all my terms on one side. So subtract 8x on both sides. That'll give me a 0 equals 4x. And then divide on both sides by 4, and that will give me an x equals 0. Now remember your tip up here with a star. Make sure that that answer doesn't cause a 0 in the original denominator. If I take that and plug it back into the original, I'm definitely not going to get a 0 in any of my denominators. So that solution, I can hang on to it. It's a good solution.